I'd like to call to order the Beaufort County Stormwater Management Utility Board meeting for February 15th. First item is the approval of today's agenda. It's in front of you, I hope. If you can see it up on the board, if you haven't copied it. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. I'll hear a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving today's agenda, if I were saying aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. The next item is the approval of the previous meeting's minutes of December 14th. Do I have a motion to approve the
I
minutes?
so motion.
Thank you. I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes set forth for December 14th, 2022, would signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved as submitted. Next item is introductions, and I guess we can start. Jeff?
Jeff Netzinger, Stormwater Manager, Town of Hilton Head Island.
Bill Bauer, Watershed Manager for the Town of Bluffton.
Dennis Ross, Representative at Large.
James Clark, representing unincorporated Port Royal.
Mark Feinberg, representing District 9 and unincorporated District 9 and Daufuskie Island.
Patrick Mitchell, representing Ladies Island.
Ron Buchanan, Sea Island and East Islands.
Ed Warner representing Hilton Head.
Steve Andrews, Seabrook area. Van Willis, Town of Port Royal.
John Spencer, Senior Administrator for Stormwater.
Alice Howard, District 4, Liaison Stormwater.
Dave Wellham, Deputy Director of Public Works.
Stephen Carter, Assistant Superintendent, Stormwater.
Sir?
Norris Bledsoe, City of Beaufort, Stormwater Supervisor.
Jake Jerry, MPS Administrator.
Juliana Corbin, Beaufort County Environmental Engineer. Katie Herrera, Beaufort County Stormwater Manager.
Thank you, everyone, for coming, and especially having a full utility board today. It's nice to see everyone. The first item is, before we get into public comment, we do not have very many people here today from the public, but when it comes to public comment, every member of the public who is recognized to speak shall limit comments to 3 minutes and observe protocol and decorum in their comments and questions to the utility board. In the past, we've not set a time limit, and some people have usurped other people's time. So we are setting a 3-minute time limit unless the person comes forth and asks for more because they have information that would not be able to be presented within a 3-minute time frame. I would ask if there's any public comment, not having anybody from the public here. Anyone else wishes to make any comments at this time? No one stepping forward. We will move right into our reports. Ms. Herrera.
Good afternoon. So you may have noticed on the agenda, we've kind of flip-flop some of our items so that Juliana and I don't have to play ping pong with our seating arrangements. So I'm going to get through my half of the presentation, and we have realigned the second half so that Juliana is the one up here speaking. So minor changes, but just wanted to bring that to your attention if you notice something might be out of order as it's normally presented. So jumping right into the utility update, the biggest item to bring y'all up to speed on is that the Southern Low Country Design Manual was approved at County Council yesterday under its second reading of the text amendment to the Stormwater Utility Code. That goes for a third and final reading during the next council session And then we can go ahead and implement the proposed amendments. So I think we set ourselves a date for March 1st, going live with some of those amendments. If you remember, these amendments came out of a discussion with the participating jurisdictions who have implemented it at the time, and really wanting to just continue to make improvements, not only for internal staff, but also external users of the manual. And so I think there are approximately 10 changes that are a part of that text amendment. So again, those changes should be going live March 1st, pending third and final approval at County Council. So we are planning, hopefully as early as April, to have the next utility board meeting at Brewer Memorial Park. There are 2 items that Juliana will probably expand on a little more that we're waiting to wrap up. Everything's been completed with our contractor. These are just some open land trust ticket items, as well as the planning department has a small project associated, but hopefully the weather will be nice enough that we can meet on site at Brewer Memorial Park. This park project, along with the Evergreen project, we will be submitting to the South Carolina Association of Public Works for project awards for this last year. So hopefully those will be handed out. We're successful winners of those awards, and those will be handed out at the South Carolina APWA conference in Charleston in early June. So if you do have any suggestions about future meeting locations, we are happy to entertain those as well. So along with any special presentations. As a reminder, the financial reports from the municipalities are due. Those that haven't been provided yet are listed above, and again, per the IGA, those are required for submission. Unaudited numbers are acceptable. So moving into the monitoring update from the lab. We have had a relatively dry January, and then over the weekend we had lots of wet weather come through our area. So I know that USCB was busy taking samples as appropriate in our jurisdiction. So Q1 wraps up at the end of March, and we see no issue with obtaining all the necessary samples at that time. The SWIC members, we met today, and the lab fees for next year have not changed. It is still the $170,000, and so we feel that that funding is still appropriate to accomplish the goals of the monitoring program.
Is that assuming that we take the same amount of samples? I take it they're charging us per sample analyzed and a report?
Yes, there's some flexibility built into that. We do have, in the event we need special monitoring done, there is room in that budget to accomplish those goals. If we have an illicit discharge that we need to have sampled, there's also room to take care of that as well.
Is that in a contingency fee that you put aside, or is that just keeping your fingers crossed that it doesn't go overboard? In other words, the $170,000 in your budget for that, right? Is it a fixed number of samples that they will analyze for $170,000?
There is the assumed amount based on the number that we have, and then there is a contingency USCB budget that would have handled through Test America in Savannah. So that would have been an additional fee for us to incur. But anything they can handle in-house is taken care of with them.
I'll ask Mrs. Wallace later about contingency fees.
She's ready for questions.
I know. She's easily able to answer.
Yes, she is. So for the SWIC report, per the IGA, the FY24 management fee memo was provided on time today to those members. We actually met prior to this meeting just to go over some of those budget items and talk about anything that we need to discuss as a group, so loco, things of that nature. So again, per the IGA, that was provided to them on time. Yeah, one of the things we did discuss was the future of some of the stormwater utility fees and where we wanted to see those rates go to in the next year, as this next budget cycle is the last year of that $100 fee set forth back in 2019. So that'll be something we have to reevaluate in the coming year for implementation for the following tax year. So cost sharing on that item was discussed. Going to regional coordination, the agenda calls to see item number 9 under stormwater related projects. Item number 9 is about the Arthur Horn process, and so I'll let Juliana discuss that, but we did get to meet with NRCS staff on February 6th. They came down. They were contacted by the Gullah Geechee community to see if there was any additional funding for stormwater related projects. They had 6 items kind of called out, and so NRCS and the team from Columbia wanted to come down and evaluate the validity and efficacy of what they were being proposed. So we had a really nice on-site visit, got to show them a lot of St. Helena Island, talked to them about the drainage study that was recently completed, and then what we thought sort of what would and wouldn't be feasible for their project. So they've taken that information, they're going back to the state to kind of make a determination based on our site visit and discussions, but it was a nice meeting to see them and get some more plug time for our Arthur Horn project. So
Are you expecting a report from NCRS to come to you?
I am not expecting anything back from them. They were tagged to go do this from a level above them. I can't recall specifically who tasked them with that. And so they're going to report their findings back to them, but I'm sure if I asked, they'd be more than happy to include me in their report.
I think it would be nice for you to be involved, since you sort of hosted them.
Sure. Yes, we have reached out to York Glover to have another community meeting for the St. Helena area and for us to be able to present the findings of that drainage study. So we're just waiting to hear back when would be a good time for him to coordinate a public meeting on that. And Wilbert, it would be coming down for that discussion as well. So.
Thank you.
And for the municipal reports, I'll go ahead and open the floor to my colleagues in their respective jurisdictions.
We can start with Jeff.
Absolutely. So we're submitted our preliminary budget for next fiscal year a couple weeks ago. That's being reviewed by senior staff. The budget highlights there, we're asking for new staff also related to contemplation and a proposal to add fees for plan review and inspection for our MPDS program. Currently, we don't charge a fee, but if we add that, we're going to expand our inspections to include single-family residential, which we do not do as part of our monthly inspections as we do to commercial sites. But that's going to require additional staff if we implement that. But the costs could be covered by the proposed fees for inspection as well. So looking to recoup some of that cost we're incurring. And continuing to budget large amounts of our budget to rehabbing our pump stations. We've done 2 and we have 2 more to go, so that's ongoing. That's about all I have.
Thank you.
I think we're considering adopting the Soloco manual, so we're taking a look at that. To date, we did not participate in the effort to have the document created, but we are now being encouraged to look at it and consider adopting it at some level. So that's also ongoing at present.
Thank you. Bill?
Big things we want to talk about is our Buck Island drainage improvement is ongoing as we talk right now. Tonight, they're doing lane closures to remove the piping and put in, so hopefully that'll relieve a lot of the flooding along Buck Island Road. The Old Town Comprehensive Infrastructure Drainage Study is winding down. They've done all their field inspections, and we're waiting on the stormwater model to come in to finalize the drainage study. Bridge Street is in the middle of construction right now, and that's where we're implementing new green infrastructure along Bridge Street to help protect the UG code. The New Riverside Barn Park, construction started this week, so that's where we're putting in new LID stormwater ponds along with the new park and amphitheater that's going on out at the barn, so we're very excited about that. Our water quality manager has started the comprehensive continuous flow monitoring of the Stony Creek area. That's where we're going to start monitoring flow 24 hours a day with continuously updates. We're going to get it through cell phone data so we can look at it at any time, but that's going into the Headwater comprehensive drainage study that's coming on next year, so we're getting ready for that. Also, the USCB lab would like to let everybody know that their MST lab with their microsource tracking or their DNA tracking lab is up and running and ready to start doing bigger and better things. So we look forward to more reports for them on that. That's about all I have.
Thank you. Is that DNA testing to be, excuse my ignorance, but we're being able to tell where the fecal coliform comes from?
Not where it comes from, but what it does is tells us whether it's human, dog, ant, deer.
Well, that's what I meant.
bird.
You can tell what species.
Yeah, what species
it
it
came
is,
from.
and it's more of telling what's not there than what is there. So like in the May River, when we go out and test for DNA samples in the May River, we can tell whether it's coming from development or from wildlife.
Good. It really helps.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting work that they're doing at the lab.
Mr. Willis?
Just a few things. We're still waiting on some answers to a couple of grants that we submitted, one for the Casablanca area that we've already scoped out, and another one that we are hopefully going to get done in the downtown area. We're about to install the water control structure in Cypress wetlands, obviously waiting for the birds to be born, so we don't want to interfere with that process whatsoever. So that is going pretty well, and I think there was one other thing. Oh yeah, the last meeting I did mention that we were about to adopt the SoLoco manual that evening. We did adopt it, so we are participating officially.
Great. Thank you.
Real fast, I'll kind of jump back to regional coordination. Next month, March 6th, the county and the town of Hilton Head are going to be meeting with the residents of Old Woodlands to discuss the drainage complaints and kind of give our formal response to the group as a whole about what the county and the town can and cannot do for the residents of that area. So that's something that we've been coordinating on, and we'll be meeting with them March 6th.
It's on my calendar, but where is it being held?
Town Hall.
Town Hall?
Yep. And I think with that, Julianne's turn.
Good afternoon. For stormwater-related projects, we've slimmed this down, and I am still going to skip around in your packet. I'll start with the Shell Point project and with the disclaimer that everything has changed since this report, which is good. That means progress. The intergovernmental agreement with SCDOT was uploaded for legal review, as you see in the packet, and late Monday afternoon it was approved by county staff, so we'll move forward with getting that signed by both parties and into effect. The environmental survey scope and fee was approved, and they have since started work on that. So if you've been in the area, you may have seen flags or people out. And so we are expecting that portion of the project to be complete by February 20th, and we'll have the results of that soon thereafter. We're looking to schedule a task force meeting soon in March, so first or second week of March, and look forward to giving an update with our stakeholders there. Moving down to Husba Court North and Bessie's Lane, which is item number 8. Katie and I have worked a lot on this lately now that we have our on-call contractor JH Hires on board. We met out there on the 7th, so I think that was last week, to do a site visit with them, get boots on the ground, and compare the plans to what was out there. On Husba Court, we've opted to use plastic pipe instead of reinforced concrete pipe because that area does not see any vehicular traffic. And so that pipe has been delivered, and we are waiting on the junction boxes, which should be here in now about 10 to 12 weeks instead of 12 to 14 that you see in the packet. So when that project, or when those materials are delivered, we will have the estimate back from JH Hires. We expect it by February 24th per an email today. And so hopefully that project will be able to move some dirt soon. Bessie's Lane is a similar project scope. We also did a site visit out there. It does not need the materials that Husba Court needs, and so we're hoping that that one can happen as soon as possible. Katie really hit all the points I had on Arthur Horn Park. There hasn't been too much of an update as far as the approval of the PIFR document, and it still remains 4th in the priority rating that the state has. So if there are no questions, I'll move to professional contracts.
Before you leave, we mentioned earlier, the Graves property, Pepper Hall.
Yes, sir.
That's ongoing. Where does it stand?
It is ongoing, very much ongoing. That's a busy site if there ever was one. And just less than an hour ago, I signed the single-family residential phase of the property, so they'll be scheduling their pre-con here in the next few days to get started with that. I think it's about 35 acres under construction in that effort. So it's ongoing, and let's see, the in-market station too is back up and running, planning-wise.
My other question is, I realize there's a lot of construction going on in that area. Is the roadway open to the public park area?
That's a great question. Last time I was there, it was hard to get back there. The county road was open, Graves Road, certainly, but as far as access to the park, it doesn't scream open.
Okay.
There is a terminus, and it does not make it all the way to that pond at the back just yet. And I don't know when they're planning on having that open.
Are they giving you updates?
For construction and for that, no. We were only involved for the cost share of the infrastructure related to the installation of the road. And so now that our cost share portion is complete, we're still working with them as far as permitting and approval is concerned. But as far as the cost share and what the utilities funding, that's been completed.
And the construction of the road that will go from Graves Road to the county parcel is part of the construction in this single-family development. Their main ingress and egress is Saltwater Cowboy Way, which is the main ingress and egress of that county parcel.
I guess the reason I'm asking, Mrs. Howard and I were involved in this plan, and to the best of my recollection, the county was on the hook, the Stormwater Utility Board was definitely on the hook for the maintenance of their stormwater retention area in perpetuity. So.
That's the way I understood it too.
So I'm just curious, when we make the statement that we're done, I don't think we're done, unfortunately.
It has not been handed over
And I guess that's what I'm getting to. When do we expect that to be handed over to us? And are we, because we're cost sharing that, are we overseeing the building of this retention?
We
area.
are overseeing the building, but because it's a park project, I think that it's in their wheelhouse to approve for final permit completion.
Could you speak into the mic so that people on mic can hear?
I could hear.
So, did you hear the question?
Not here.
Okay, so the question was about whether or not the county park has opened and if pond construction is complete, and then how long we'll be keeping, or when we expect that process to close, is that correct?
Well, it's not just closure, it's open-ended. Unfortunately, that when this was passed by council, it was stated that the Stormwater Utility Board would be fully responsible, all right, for the maintenance of the stormwater retention pond. Back then it was ponds plural, all right? And that oversight, and I believe it was 2 years ago, in our budget, we were expected to put as much as $500,000 per year in basically escrow into our budget process for the maintenance of that area.
So the budget for the maintenance would just be part of our normal operating budget for infrastructure. We were budgeting in those previous fiscal years for construction. So the construction side of it is completed. Now it hasn't closed out to my knowledge, unless you know of anything differently, because it's technically a stormwater project on a county park. So it's my understanding that the county park will need to be completed before it technically comes into our inventory system. So in the event there are issues, the contractor is still responsible for that maintenance. And because it's an ongoing and active construction site, we do have an inspector out there frequently.
I appreciate what you're doing. I'm somewhat concerned, and I would ask Ms. Howard and her Natural Resource Committee to look into this further, because
Maybe at the next meeting, we could get an update from Ms. Nagy too about when she thinks it'll be turned over.
Yeah.
The county park has not come through for final SRT, so just knowing other projects in the timeline that takes, they're a few months from having their permits to construct. So then when we look at how long it would take to construct and close out that project, I think we're looking at years before the ponds are turned over into our inventory officially with the CFC.
Again, for the record, I would ask Ms. Howard to take that under advisement under the Natural Resources Committee.
We'll get an update, because the next meeting will be before the next stormwater, so we'll get something.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm actually meeting with Stephanie on Friday about a different initiative, so I can also touch base with her at that time. Sorry.
So moving into professional contracts, the Brewer Memorial Project is still an open project. They are working this week to correct those irrigation issues and get it up to speed where it needs to be to keep those plants and that investment alive. So I'll be out there tomorrow to meet with that contractor and learn how to work the system, see where those lines are as we look towards closing out that project. The other facet of that project that Katie alluded to earlier is a pathway from the handicap spot to the county fishing pier. And we are seeking an update as to the timeline of that, and we'll certainly provide that to you all when we receive it. We continue to work with Wolpert and love working with Wolpert. They come in on time, under budget, and we're just really grateful to work with them. We'd like to highlight that the Northern Ladies Island Phase 1, which was the survey data and investigations that are going into the model that they're creating in Phase 2 that is open. But they projected $150,000, just over $150,000, that it would take for that phase one, and the scope was closed out at $101,661.72. And so we're grateful for that relationship and that they are coming in on time and under budget. The open scopes are seen here, and I won't hit on all of them. I will jump to scope number 11, which is item C, Northern Ladies Island Drainage Study Phase 2. Katie and I have compared their preliminary data to the complaints that are logged in the BC Connect system, and so we've done some QA/QC on our side. They continue to QA/QC on their side, and so we'll meet with them tomorrow and get a new update there. Scope number 12, we've recently commissioned a water quality monitoring station and rain gauge at the headwaters of the Ocoee River, and Beaufort will be handling this effort for us in terms of securing the equipment, getting it installed, and the permits needed therein. We renewed a scope for MS4 general permit assistance for the calendar year 2023, and there are $40,000 allocated to that effort. And then pending approval is scope number 14 for water quality improvements at River's End. And this scope includes data compilation and inventory analysis and survey, identification of potential BMPs, of course, a model development. They'll look at alternatives and then ultimately provide a drainage report that we can use to make effective improvements in the community. And then similar to this, we're looking at doing a mirror effort to that in Mint Farm, but we're gonna pursue the River's End thing first and then pursue Mint Farm. So if there are no other questions, I'll move to the MS4 report.
Let me just ask a question about River's End.
Yes, sir, it is a community with county-owned infrastructure in the Ocoee area.
Is there an existing problem there, or are we designing to?
Yes, sir.
Are we trying to remediate a problem?
We are. The water quality data consistently has been really high there for bacteria, and that's the impairment of the Ocoee River. And so since that is a community with county-owned infrastructure where we are able to make an improvement, that's where we want to focus our efforts as we look towards future capital improvement projects.
When you say that, I'm just curious, the water quality issues, we're talking about wells, we're talking about, when you say water quality?
The numbers from the samples were really high, and that's really all that we know. We haven't done any source tracking yet.
Okay.
But consistently,
But we are-
those numbers were higher.
But we are going to?
Yes, sir, that's
Okay.
an aspect of this scope.
So when the county redid its water quality monitoring program, we are focusing on areas where there's a county contribution to, or an MS4 contribution to the degradation of water quality. So we had to get baseline information, and then from that baseline information over 2.5 years, we then pulled from that data and said, where can we want to be sampling where we can make improvements. And so at River's End, the discharge point of their stormwater pond is a contributing factor of bacteria to the Ocoee. And because it is a county-owned asset and county contribution, true MS4 contribution, we are responsible and we can make a concerted effort to make improvements. It's the task of the permit itself. And so that's what we're looking at with Beaufort, is not only retrofitting the BMP to improve water quality, but there are also county infrastructure roadway issues as well. So it's a double hitter, so to speak. We can make an improvement to drainage and water quality. And so that's why we're taking a comprehensive look at the system to find out what improvements we can make. Certainly we can just retrofit the pond, but there may be other ways to go above and beyond.
We're looking for Beaufort to tell us that.
Yes, yeah. I'm sorry.
Are you talking to me? Yes, sir. Okay, sorry, I can.
Yes.
We're good now.
Okay.
As far as an update on the MS4 plan reviews, have slowed down here lately. Those numbers have dropped this month. And along with that, the permits have dropped, although I'm looking for that to ramp back up here as we hit the spring months. Our inspectors stay busy as ever, and they've been closing out a lot of projects as well. And in addition to all of the inspections they've done, I see the number there was 700 plus inspections in the month of January. They also received their OSHA certifications, and so we're really proud of them for balancing all that they do and getting everything done that they do, and are grateful to them for their efforts. They've also dealt with a few IDDEs, most of which have been related to septic tanks being connected to a drainage conveyance, and they've dealt with those appropriately. The public education report was unavailable at the time of publication, and so we will skip that for this board meeting. We continue to talk about working with Intergov as far as staff review team is concerned, and zoning is taking applications and payments via Intergov, but the staff review team process has not shifted to using that software yet. We don't have an update on the MS4 permit as it pertains to DHEC, but we will be going to the quarterly Association of Stormwater Managers meeting in Columbia the first week in March, and so are certainly hoping to hear some positive news about that new permit then. And with that, I have the staff update. We continue to interview for all vacancies. We have some regulatory vacancies as well as a number of infrastructure vacancies, and so are hiring where we can. With that, I will turn it back over to Katie, I think. To Stephen Carter for the infrastructure report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Stephen Carter, Assistant Superintendent for Beaufort County Stormwater. I want to talk to you a little bit about the major projects that we've done and some of the minor projects that we have completed. If you look in your packet, I'm just going to go through a few of them. Want to make sure you have enough time for everyone else to come up here before I go through all of them.
You can take as much time as you need.
The first one I want to talk about is the Lightsey Road channel clean out. This project improved 3,383 linear feet of drainage system. The scope of work included cleaning out 3,383 linear feet of channel ditch, and the cost of that was $15 million.
No, not quite a million.
Huh? Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry about that. Comment in the wrong spot.
You just broke the budget.
15,131. And the second one of the major projects I want to speak about is the Old Jericho Road and Taft Street from in the Port Royal Island District. This project improved 1,330 linear feet of drainage system. The scope of work included cleaning out 1,300 linear feet of roadside ditch and jetting out 6 driveway pipes. Also hydro seeding for erosion control. The cost of that was $17,781. Going into some of the minor reports and the minor and routine project. The first one I want to speak about is the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office on Camp St. Mary. And that scope of work included grading the road to improve the drainage. And that improved because during heavy rains, their parking lot would flood tremendously, and the sheriff's office wouldn't be able to get in and out of their gate. So we helped with the drainage to alleviate the water from flooding in their parking lot. And another of the minor routine projects I would like to speak about is the Burks Beach on Hilton Head Island. The project improved 1,762 linear feet of drainage system, and the scope of work include included cleaning out 1,762 linear feet of roadside ditch and also jetting 2 driveway pipes.
Very much appreciated.
That's it. I have enough time for one more of those in Bluffton. We also did work on Sailor's Choice in Bluffton, and this project improved 178 linear feet of drainage system. The scope of work included cleaning out 178 linear feet of roadside ditch to alleviate the water flooding in the ditches. Those are, these are some of the projects, minor and major, that we have done. If you all get a chance, you can look in your packet, and it has scope of work and the before and during pictures, and the arrows pointing where the scope of work was finished at. If you all have any questions or comments.
First, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Carter, for filling in for Mr. Roush. And
Yes, sir.
secondly, I guess my question is, since you're out there doing the work or overseeing the work, are you getting all the help and assistance you need to get it done?
Yes, sir. As of right now, as Juliana spoke, we a little short-staffed, but we're dealing with it, getting the projects completed as quickly and safely as we can. Right now, we could use a little more staff work, but right now we're getting the projects completed.
All right, thank you. The other item I would ask is, since we're looking at next year's budget, do you have all the equipment you need to do the job? I think that's even more important. I can't help you with staffing, but maybe with equipment. Do you have the equipment you need to do the job?
We could, right now we have, for the staff, we have the equipment, and I know once they talk about the fiscal year, next year, I'm pretty sure they're gonna include the equipment that we would be getting in. I know as of today, we got in a new lowboy trailer, and I'm not sure when the new lowboy will be coming in for us to transport our larger equipment, but we do have the dump trucks and the tag-along trailers to move most of our smaller equipment. We can, as of right now, I'll get with Katie and Matthew and Miss Carolyn to talk about the budget to see where we stand with our other equipment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Does anybody else have anything? Next, under liaison report, Ms. Howard.
Good afternoon. We had our budget workshop last week for 2 days, and we talked about stormwater, of course, during one of those sessions. And I think we did talk about equipment needs, mentioned that was on the list. And also, we had, what day was that? The conversation with Senator Graham's office? I forget. Shell Point, there was a little bit of confusion because we had been told there was funding by Congressman Mace's office, but actually it was just authorized. There's no money yet. So it's like a promise. One of the staffers in Senator Graham's office, he described it as, you go to Dad and he said, sure, you can have $20, but then you go to Mom and she won't open her pocketbook. So the pocketbook has not opened yet. So we had a call with Senator Graham's office. I should say Ms. O'Hara did, and I listened in, and it was a good conversation. But so the money's not there for Shell Point, but of course the other work that DOT's doing is going on. So that was some not good news, but not bad news, I guess.
Are they saying that the money is forthcoming?
No.
It's not.
No.
It's not coming.
No, it's just authorized, so. It's a federal government, I guess. I don't know if y'all have any questions for me or not, but I would like to recognize, because he came in a little bit after introductions, Mr. William Smith is here, and he's on the school board representing St. Helena in the back. He's their school board rep. Y'all have any questions for me? we'll be doing our finalizing of our budget, later on, but this was like the workshop to get ready to do our budget.
I would just like to thank Ms. Howard for being a strong supporter of the Stormwater Utility Board on County Council. And we're so glad you're still there.
No,
and
thank you.
And supporting us.
Well, this is my last term, so you got me for 4 more years. I promise. That's it.
Thank you. Right now, we go back into unfinished business, an update by Ms. Herrera on the land swap agreement.
Yes, so last meeting, I spoke to you all about the possibility of some of the property that was utilized for the Okatee West and the Evergreen Regional BMPs being proposed as part of a land swap with the Open Land Trust to have built on the Evergreen property a library, and then in a section, in another part of Bluffton, there was a piece that was going to be allocated for some solid waste and recycling effort. And so we met on site with the members of the Open Land Trust and the Open Land Trust Board, excuse me. And after they met, there was a public meeting in, I believe, early January, and it was decided that the board would not support the initiative and effort of the proposed land swap. And so from there, I know we did cost share in the purchase of both of those properties, excuse me. And so the question was, what would happen to the utility funds? But as of right now, because that agreement is no longer forthcoming, it's not anything that we have to worry about at this time. But because it was something that was still pending as of last meeting, I did want to bring it to y'all's attention that it has been decided to not move forward. So.
Any questions about the land swap? I know it's been in the news, in the island packet, so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now we move into new business, and sort of TY23 management memo. Can you explain that?
Yes. So every year we provide a memo to the municipalities. John, can you? Perfect. Thank you. Talking about the previous tax year and then what was. Can you scroll down, please? Perfect. So these are the numbers from previous tax year 21, what was billed, what was collected, just for the information of the jurisdictions that we all serve under the utility. It's a breakdown of all of the accounts, how many of the accounts paid, and how many of the accounts are still, we've collected on, and how many are still sort of in arrears. So this is just a breakdown for the municipalities to have and understand what funds came in and out of the utility, especially in their jurisdictions. And then we use these numbers to project what next fiscal years are going to look like. And from there, because we do cost share on several items and the municipalities do cost share in the management budget overall for Ms. Carolyn and myself, they're provided all that information. Can you go to the next page? This is per the IGA that we all have in place with each other, just to give them an idea of what the fee for the next tax year is going to look like. So this is the last year of, I think I spoke about it earlier, this coming year is the last year under the rate model we adopted about 4 years ago now. So in this coming year, we're gonna need to work to figure out where we need to be for those rates. And possibly, like you're alluding to, increase what the utility fees are. So, but we want to make sure that we're justified in those decisions, and we will definitely be soliciting the assistance of a consultant, whether that's an existing consultant or an additional outside resource, to make sure we do this appropriately. John, can you keep scrolling down, please? That's just the breakdown of the public education and public outreach component for each jurisdiction. And then under monitoring, you see that Hilton Head and Bluffton don't cost share in those efforts. The county does the monitoring in the city and the town. And so there is a small portion allocated for cost sharing from those jurisdictions. And then if you go to the final page, that's the breakdown of all of the expenses. Go up a little bit, please. Keep going. There we go. That's good. You'll see the total management cost for this year has gone down to $284,000. That's the breakdown of all that information, and then what it gets allocated to, and what the management cost sharing fees are for each account for that. So this is the breakdown. The municipalities are also provided. Gosh, Carolyn, how many sheets is that on the rate model? Like 29 different sheets, just about, in an Excel file that we update and then get this information. So that's all provided to the municipalities as well as backup information to this document. So again, we all met about it this morning / afternoon, and if you all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I think it's especially important for our ex officio members who do this cost sharing.
And we've had a conversation this morning about that, and I think we're all in agreement on our cost sharing right now.
That's fine.
We're good.
That's always nice to hear.
Yes. So in the event our budget changes for any reason, they will receive an amendment to this document, and they are required per the IGA to provide approval or denial of what we're proposing by April 1st. So, yeah, that's the management fee memo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And now, Ms. Carolyn Wallace. I'm sorry, I did not speak into the microphone. Ms. Carolyn Wallace will present.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good to see everyone. And so I know this looks very familiar. People that attach me, this should look very familiar to a lot of you. Some of you are fairly new, so you'll may not be as familiar with this. And so I'm going to walk us through this. I hope everyone has had the opportunity to review the budget. Sorry, it came out just a little late, but we did try to get it to you as quick as we could. Actually, we are ahead of most sections because of our February 15th deadline to the municipalities, and for also trying to get this presented to you, and hopefully getting your recommendation on today before it get moved up the chain of command. And so as Councilman Howard alluded to, eventually this will get reviewed by senior staff members and then presented to county council. But before we get to that, we want to go through this budget with you and hopefully get your recommendation. I'm not going to cover everything. I have provided you all of my notes on this, have been doing that for a few years now, so you can get a good idea of what how we're structured and how we're anticipating our budget to look for the upcoming fiscal year. And so I want to talk to you about the efforts or our proposed expenses for this upcoming fiscal year. And if you look at this document, you'll see that I'm comparing the budget from last year, or I'm sorry, the current year that we're in, apologize, to what we are proposing. That's the comparison that this is provided on here. And so you can see that there are some changes, and I want to go through more so the changes. And then if you have specific questions, I'll be glad to answer those. One of the major changes is that we had a very robust CIP project or water quality retrofit program. This year, we actually have none programmed for this year. There's a finally a year that we're skipping. And so we'll have some that will come into play in fiscal year 2025, but none for this year. But if you do notice, though, it's shifted to operations and maintenance, a good bit of it. Now we have major projects that we don't consider qualified for what the purpose of what this was created for, our CIP projects. Those are water quality retrofit projects. But these are more water quantity issues, drainage, flooding, historic issues that they're going to be addressing. And one that Katie has already touched upon, and Juliana, was Rivers End. And she mentioned more so because they're very concerned with that, with the water quality aspect. So we had to decide which area we would even program that project in. But when you look at it, the majority of the dollars are going to be used towards the water quantity problems. And so that's why it is not in the CIP projects. It's listed in the operations area. So our efforts are, we have 3 sections, and so I'm just gonna go through this really briefly. We have the management section, and that includes me and Katie, the stormwater manager, the stormwater business manager, and John Spencer, who's left us half of his effort. FTEs are to support us, and the other half is regulatory. And in regulatory, we have 7.5 folks in there, and I've listed those out too, and that would be Juliana, our inspectors, our senior inspector, and our inspector technicians. And then the bulk of the employees, of course, the personnel, is with our infrastructure group, which there's about 40 FTEs in that section. And like they've already alluded to, we have some vacancies there. And so now we're looking at, we have an on-call contractor, and they've already mentioned JH hires, that we're able to now look at getting some of these more larger projects taken care of, and they've already started. So they've already mentioned Bessie Lane. I think they mentioned Church of God. No, it was Husper Court. And then there's the Church of God project also that they're hoping to go ahead and get started in this year. We have a little bit of rollover because there's a possibility they won't get those completed until next year. But we have a few other major projects that are coming on board next year. So our management budget, Katie's already mentioned it in our report to the municipalities this week. We cost share that with them. The operations and maintenance budget, you see 1.9 million just in construction that we're hopefully anticipating for FY 2024, and then another 635,000 for additional studies for the Shell Point project. And the Shell Point project is already ongoing. We already have, y'all should already know that, we already have someone hired, a contractor doing that. And we're anticipating that to take a few years. So we'll continue to budget for that each year. And then in regulatory, you can see basically what they went over with the cost share, the water quality monitoring, the public information and outreach, and then our staff and all the things that we need to support them. Plus, we have, and if you look under there, is $354,000 for stormwater consulting service. That's Beaufort. And those are the projects that we're looking for them to help us with in the coming fiscal year. Now, if you go back to the revenue, you see that we're gonna have a shortfall if we look at the revenue versus the efforts for next year. And we need to use about $2.8 million out of our reserves for next year. At our last audited annual report, which would have been for fiscal year 2021, we had over $9 million left in reserves, or what I call it reserves, but it's called unrestricted net asset when you look at our statement. And of that $9 million plus dollars, $5 million of that, of course, is the bond money. I'm sure some of y'all remember that from a few years ago. We have not expended it yet, and it's been, well, 4 years. It coincides with that 5-year budget. And so that leaves us another $4 million without even looking at using that bond. And the reason why we're looking at what that difference is because really that bond was taken out for our CIP program, our water quality retrofit project. So we're going to be requesting, if you concur with us, $2.8 million. And if you look, we have about $2.8 million worth of projects that we would like to contract out for next year. The only major project that I know of that we're going to be asking the infrastructure group to do is all the projects that came out of the St. Helena watershed study. I did note it in here, so we can highlight that, but that's, but of these major projects that I know of, that's the only one we're asking them to complete, right, Katie? Yeah. Okay, but the others, we are going to look at using our on-call contractor to complete for us. Now, those are the highlights. Just because y'all talked to Stephen too about the equipment, I will go through that. There are some needs. You can see that we're replacing 3 pieces of equipment down to the bottom. The John Deere loader, I think, might be pushing. Now, loaders last a long time, so this'll, I want to say that loader's probably going on 20 years old. It's time for us to upgrade that. That 308D cat excavator, we use smaller excavators quite a bit. And matter of fact, we don't even want to replace this with a 308D. That we're replacing it, but we want to replace it with a 305. We need a little bit more smaller, compact piece of equipment. They need more smaller, compact piece of equipment for our projects. So that's what they've decided that they would like to do, is get something a little bit smaller. He also mentioned that we just got in a lowboy trailer. Infrastructure didn't purchase that, but they do have a new lowboy trailer that has come in. He talked about our tag-along trailers. But one thing we also noticed is we've kind of lost flexibility with the crew being able to take their own light equipment out. Our Bobcats and smaller equipment like that, we used to have small trailers that we purchased with the Bobcats, but they had those wing wells and they got banged up. And so we're looking to purchase them a smaller one so that a F-250 or a F-350 can pull a Bobcat rather than us having to have one of our CDL drivers with their dump truck to pull it. So we're trying to give them some more versatility in what they need. And this is feedback we're getting from them that they need to help get these projects completed. Another area is the vac truck. So we have a vacuum truck. It's fairly new. I think it's a 2018 vac truck. It's down quite a bit. It get used quite a bit. And so rather than replace it, we're looking at adding a vacuum truck, and we can definitely keep it moving if we're able to get that from them. Again, this is feedback from them, that it would be great for them to have a second vacuum truck because they can have a crew for that and be able to get more done in that vein. So those are the capital asset purchases for infrastructure for this year. There are none for management, and there's none for regulatory. They're plussed up pretty good. Now, regulatory need is a camera. We had a camera trailer, it's obsolete, but we're able to actually purchase that out of this year's funding. So that's already been approved by county council for us to go ahead and purchase. That's their biggest need, and we are addressing that this year. Are there any questions?
I have one.
Surely.
At least one.
At least one.
The vacuum truck looks like it's the biggest expenditure in this. It's almost all the rest of them combined.
Absolutely.
Is the vacuum truck we have maintenance intensive, that it's always, it's down a lot, so they need a second one so that they have one running? So when one's being repaired, one's out there working? Is that the idea?
That's part of it. Is the fact that even if it was up, it would be hard to we see the need regardless. Even if it was up, we see where we could use a second vacuum truck. But also it's the fact that when it's down, it causes issues. Sometimes we use that to go out and explore an issue ahead of time. And it's a tool that can be used for that too. So you could imagine if there's a drainage issue and it's a underground issue, of course, the safest way to do that sometime is to either employ the vac truck, it can do soft digs and different things, and then that's another issue with not having a camera capability, because that's something you can actually, deploy and be able to kind of do some investigation. So that's my take on the vacuum truck. Y'all want to add anything to that?
I'm just trying to think about, if we give our recommendation, what questions we think council will have about these
Mr. Chairman,
items.
if I could use my equipment experience
Go right
of
ahead.
40-plus years, a vacuum truck is known as a self-destructing piece of equipment in the construction industry. It is typically, when you're designing a piece of equipment, you look at the B10 life, and that's the failure, how many failures you're gonna have in 10,000 hours. The B10 life on a vacuum truck is the top of the scale. It's like a rock drill. Like I said, it is self-destructing. And that's why you've seen from over a dozen manufacturers down to a handful, because they realize their cost is so high and they can't keep warranties and all that. So it is a self-destructing piece.
I knew there was a reason I wanted you on this board.
I appreciate it, Mr. Warner. I think you
But
summed that up really well.
I do have, being an equipment guy, has there been a cost analysis on the cat or the deer? And
Yes, it
why
has.
would you replace with a cat or a deer? Especially when there are other manufacturers that have a better maintenance cost, lower maintenance cost, are more productive. And there's actually, in the wheel loader, there's actually a manufacturer that is South Carolina based. Wouldn't we want to support one of our
Okay, and
equipment manufacturers?
thank you. Those are excellent questions. First of all, that John Deere is what's being replaced, and is actually, when we look at a few things. First of all, we get feedback from our crews, of course. But we also rely on the fleet manager to take a look at it, and then we also have it evaluated by First Vehicle Services. So in that evaluation, they will provide us how much we have spent in maintenance of that piece of equipment. We will always also get a cost on rehabbing it. If we were to keep it, how much would it cost to rehab it? And then and then we have to look at that, and one of the things, as the finance person, one of the things that's crucial to me too, is has it been fully depreciated? Yes, we can sell a piece of equipment that has not been fully depreciated, but I don't like to see that I don't like to see what happens to my statement. But so we are always trying to hold on to a piece of equipment until it at least is fully depreciated. But looking at that John Deere, we've already started looking at quotes, and we try to use the South Carolina state contract when we are looking at quotes and purchasing. So we will do that. But we're looking at that John Deere is actually probably going to be replaced with a cat loader. But we won't really know until, again, the fiscal year comes in and we have to get fresh quotes. But we'll look more so at the specifications of what we need and then look at what is available. Now, I say that, but there's a caveat to that. The caveat is we use First Vehicle Services to maintain our equipment. So it is some savings when you purchase the same equipment from the same manufacturer. So they're used to working on cats. They're used to working on John Deere's. But that doesn't mean and international trucks, they love international trucks. Our guys do. I'm talking about First Vehicle Services, but our guys love their dump trucks being international. So all of that is taken in consideration. It is. We have Komatsu, we have Bobcat, we have Cat, we have John Deere. We have, I'm trying to think of what other manufacturers we use for our equipment. There's a bush hog. I can't think of the name of it right now. But again, a lot of this is driven by our purchasing policy too. So if we have a if we put it out for specifications and we don't necessarily have to take the lowest bid, but they will want us to. But then sometimes we can use justifications if it's within reason. But typically, it's going to be the vendor that has been vetted by the state and that's on the state contract. Does that answer your questions, Ms. Warner? I want to do a good job because you helped me out just now, too.
I'm just hesitant on John Deere. They're
On
not
John Deere.
known as in the top tier of equipment manufacturers. They're great in agriculture, but when it comes to equipment,
I cannot disagree with you. Our employees, our crew, they love the John Deere bush hog, which is a tractor with a rear mower and an A-boom. And they do love that piece of equipment, but I don't think they have any lower. I think they more so lean towards for excavators. They seem to really love cats. And I know a while back we ended up purchasing a couple of Volvos. They serve their purpose, but I don't want to say anything against them. But it does seem that they favor cats when we can get them also for excavator. But I don't know where you're leaning towards, but I do know where, the guys are leaning towards. Any other feedback for me, Mr.
Any other questions
Mr. Warner?
from the gentleman here? I want to just make a statement that I know he's not here, but Jonathan Spencer for getting this information out to us. You may have had time to look at this week when it came out. In the past, I can honestly say that the first time we saw it was when Ms. Wallace stood in front of us and put it on the board, and we had to do it on the fly. This is much improved.
We're trying.
And gives all of us, and I would hasten, not just this year, but next year, that when it comes to you, start looking at it very closely with questions or concerns that we can bring up to Ms. Wallace. We recommend or do not recommend this budget request going forward. We do not get the final say here, but the council wants to know where we stand on it, and our recommendation goes a long way when Ms. Wallace forwards this to the appropriate authorities above her. So, again, it's very important for you all, to look at it and propose questions when we have this type of meeting. I would encourage it. I know if you've had a chance this week or have any questions, now's the time to ask them before I'm asked for a motion to recommend. Any other questions? Again, we want to thank Jonathan, even though Jonathan Spencer, who's not here, for getting this out, because every month he sends out before the meeting a voluminous amount of information to us, and it's not easy. It's one of the reasons we don't meet every month, because it was so time-consuming to get all this information out. And I'll speak to that later. But if there are no further questions for Ms. Wallace, I would ask for a motion to recommend this budget.
I move that we approve.
Not approve, we recommend.
Recommend, I'm sorry, wrong word.
It's okay. Do I have a second? We have a second. All those in favor? Aye. We recommend, Ms. Wallace, that this go forward as presented.
Thank you.
At this point, we have one member of the community. It is time for public comment. Sir, please come forward.
Oh, how y'all doing? Good afternoon. Thank you guys for serving and taking the time out when you could be somewhere anywhere in America, but you're here. So thank you guys for serving. And also I'd like to thank Mrs. Howard for definitely acknowledging me for being in this meeting. But more solely today, I've came to you because on St. Helena Island, we have a lot of roads and a lot of ditches that are filled with water. And we've been talking about that for a while now, and the people out there are really wondering, are we being ignored from the Stormwater Department and also Beaufort County? And I'm sure that I remember her name, but I remember, excuse me, what's your name again? Katie. I heard her spoke about one of the things that I was coming up. I remember when Katie and the group came before the community a while back on St. Helena about the water and the basically offering them some people who wanted to take a part in that study. And I was kind of disappointed to hear that that study would not bring back the results that people were thinking. In terms of results, as in I normally would tell you, I don't bring you a problem without a solution. And today I do bring you a solution. The solution is what is the stormwater plans to help get the waters out of the ditch on St. Helena and Ladies Island as well areas in this county, because if you drive around on St. Helena Island in just various neighborhoods, even right now, the ditches are flooded full up with water. You know what I mean? You know, so sometimes some of us like to talk about Wausau, but it's more than just Wausau, where is affected when it rains heavy. And so, you know, this is something that it is serious. You know, because over a period of time, you have some people who are losing land because their yards are becoming wetlands because of the ditches on their property. And so we all pay taxpayers. So the question becomes now, what is stormwater going to do about that? You know, I mean, we've been waiting a while. You know, coming and having meetings. We just don't want to be coming just to have meetings, just to say hi. You know, we want results. So it's time to figure out. You know, I heard y'all go over the budgets and what you need. I hope y'all are getting something to pump these waters. Wherever you pump them in the truck and you taking them back to the ocean or wherever you're taking them, I hope we're coming up with a plan to unclog our ditches, because it's beginning to affect our property, and we pay taxes like everyone else. So that's what I want to hear more about. Now I want to bring that to your attention first and give you a time. Whether or not we're willing to go as far as we need to go to get some attention to get a handle on the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. At this stage, we've gone through old business, new business, and public comment. I would ask the Stormwater Utility Board members and our ex officio members, I think it's time, we're not running too late on time today. If anybody, over the past several years, Stormwater Utility Board has had different periods for when we meet. We've met quarterly, we've met monthly, and now we're meeting every other month. And we're saying that on the odd months, we would make visits. Early on, we were saying that we would have a formal in-house meeting like this one month, and then we'd have a visitation on the odd month. I really want to hear from our board members, do we believe that our current schedule is appropriate? Should we continue with it in the next year? And is there any other recommendations? We can start with Van.
This schedule works for me. I mean, it makes more, being able to attend every other month is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as we're especially getting stuff done within a 2-hour period, I don't see a need to do it every month, personally.
Good.
I know, Ed, you're new here, but
I'm new, I'm still, it's fine with me.
Steve,
Yeah.
you've been here a while.
So, just because everybody is really busy, to not have a meeting is a blessing. So if we can get it, I'd rather meet every other month and that meeting time be longer than try to fit it in every month. So I'm grateful to do it every other month and to stretch out that meeting longer if necessary.
Jim?
I agree, it's more efficient every other month like this, and that leaves us open to be able to do a special by schedule if we so choose to have one. I think it works out best like this.
Ron?
I tend to agree with it too. Just from my short time here, I think the amount of information that we get is a lot of information because it is kind of compressed into that every other month schedule. Obviously, I think a lot of it depends on Ms. Herrera and Ms. Corbin and what they need to express to us to get our approval to keep things moving along slowly so there's not moving along at a good pace so that there's not a backlog of issues that we would have to deal with, and compress it and maybe not get the attention that it needs to be able to have it thought out in a good manner.
So you're okay with the way it is? You're okay?
I am right now. I think, it would obviously be up to Ms. Herrera and those stormwater folks, if there needed to be an ad hoc meeting just to be able to have a quorum present to be able to deal with whatever needed to be dealt with, instead of dragging it out or having that sit on her plate.
Yeah, I'm sure that if there was an emergent thing that needed to be considered, we could call a meeting and hopefully get a quorum and make whatever recommendations or decisions we needed to make. Gentlemen?
I'm fine with the way it is right now. It works good for me.
Jeff?
I'm definitely good with it. It's good. I think it's the right amount there.
Well, obviously, it's overwhelmingly, we'll maintain our every other month schedule throughout this year. And hopefully when the Stormwater Management Group decides that there's something that we need to see on site that has substantial impact on the communities, that we go do the visit. I think the visits that we've had so far this year have been excellent and given us a real good sense of what the Stormwater Group is doing. And the people of Beaufort are getting the bang for their buck. I would like to say that we'd like to welcome back Mr. Wilhelm, the Associate Director of Public Works. We haven't seen him in a while, so welcome. Is there any other business that needs to be brought before the Stormwater Utility Board by anybody?
So, just a question. So from what we heard from a citizen, a representative of several citizens on St. Helena Island and the flooding, what can we do as the board? How can we respond to that? What can we do to investigate further to help?
I think from our standpoint, I think we throw it back to Ms. Herrera's office to say we need an investigation by Matt to go out like we did on several other communities when they've come forward and said that there's an issue. We've sent people out there from operations to look at the ditches and to see before and after rainfalls what's going on. And I would highly recommend the member of the board here who has those responsibilities to keep following up. I mean, that's why we have, we have different areas of concern. And if mine was on if mine was Defusky Island and there was somebody here, I'd be sure to circle back with them to make sure that Katie and her group and the operations group are taking a look at it to see not if it's real, but is it a causative thing with stormwater? We've got certain areas within the county where it is not stormwater related, although people think it is, and it's rising tide issues or low-level building. We have an issue in Woodlands that hasn't gone away yet that we're going out to address, and we may need to do the same thing with that area.
And you also need to consider whether or not it's actually county-owned infrastructure that's causing issues, whether it's ditches on private property or if it's SEDOT infrastructure.
Right.
I mean, I think it's more than just this organization.
Again, it may not be just within our purview. There are other agencies that may need to be involved. And for that gentleman who's come forward, we need to let them know that it's not just us, or it isn't us at all, that someone else has a play here.
And I know y'all did a study recently where you had an engineering firm evaluating a lot of the infrastructure out there. And there was a determination made, there's an actual study regarding a significant part of St. Helena, correct?
Yes. So that information was presented during the December board meeting, and then we met, myself, Mr. Buchanan, and York Glover about the results of that study, and are coordinating with York to have an additional public meeting to talk about those results. There were recommendations that stemmed from that study that are being spread over the next 2 years for improvements to infrastructure. But overall, the information from those improvements isn't going to change the fact that it's flooding. Putting in a bigger pipe isn't going to reduce the flooding there. So it may have an impact, and so we do want to invest those dollars, because if we can make an improvement, we want to make an improvement. But of the roughly 24 study areas based on county ownership of right-of-way and/or easements, there were only 6 proposed improvement projects, and of those 6 proposed improvement projects, they were only rated as might be able to make an impact, not full-blown, yes, absolutely, this will make an impact, or a full-blown, no, doing this will not change anything. They're just ranked as maybes, and so we are wanting to take that investment for those projects.
Gotcha, that's what
Yes.
I remembered. That's what I thought.
So Steve, to answer your question, I think we need to do our due diligence, where we can, because I think that's what we're here for. Any other public comment or board comment? If not, meeting adjourned.
Man, how are you doing?
Pretty good, what's going on?
So, I will say